Hello, I'm recording this after I edited the full video. The video that you're gonna watch isn't gonna actually be representative of what the movie Promare actually looks like because I kept on getting flagged for copyright, despite how I would edit the video. So I've decided to just throw some kind of filter on it, and hopefully this will make it so I could actually publish this video and you guys could actually look at it. So again, if you're interested in the movie, you think that even in the way it's presented in this video that it looks pretty good, I would suggest to actually watch it because again, I had to make it not look as great so I could get this published. Promare is Firefighter Gurren Lagann. Hello, my name is Kimada Kinpa and this is my Promare video essay. Promare is an animated movie co-produced by Studio Trigger and X-Flag, directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi, written by Kazuki Nakashima, who both worked on shows like Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill, and music by Hiroyuki Sawano, who you may know from Kill la Kill, Seven Deadly Sins, and Attack on Titan. I love this movie, but I will be the first to tell you that this movie isn't what you would normally say is deep. Promare follows the Trigger formula to a T. Big robots fight other robots until it turns out that there are actually aliens that they may or may not fight before doing something in or relating to space, something spiral power. What I'm trying to say is it's kind of stupid, and you know that's fine. Promare is the textbook definition of what someone would call style over substance, and again, that's okay. I actually very much like it because of this, because I find the real meat of this Promare steak isn't the deeper themes of the movie, but the way it looks, its style. So I'm going to try to break down the aesthetics of this movie, starting with the design of the characters. This is where I'm going to start talking about shapes. You know, welcome back to elementary school. This one's a circle because it's round. Would you look at that? Okay, next let's look at these two shapes right here. I'm going to ask you which shape you think is called boba and which shape you think is called tiki. Okay, you got it? If you called this shape boba and this one tiki, then you have the same answer somewhere between 95 and 98% of people participating in an experiment run by neuroscientists V.S. Ramachandra and Edward Hubbard. And this answer holds true despite cultural background and even age, seeming to suggest that people respond to shapes in a similar fashion. But what does that have to do with character design? Well, character design uses shapes, and that can make a character feel or appear a certain way. Remember that circle from earlier? It's going to be on the final. The circle is round, it's soft, it's non-threatening, which is why many cute and lovable characters are designed with circles. Let's take a look at one of my favorite Pokemon, Eevee. Look at it, it's so cute, it's so fluffy, look at the circles. But uh-oh, what's this? It's got pointy bits, triangles. Now the first thing you may notice when it comes to triangles versus circles is that triangles aren't typically round. In fact, they're quite sharp, and sharp generally isn't very good. This is why triangles are often used in designs for villains, or can be helped to add extra energy to a character because it implies motion, like an arrow. A lot of character designs in Promare have this geometric look to them, so it's pretty easy to break down a character into the more basic shapes. Look at Gallo. He's got the spiky hair. This gives us a sense of energy and agility, and all the information is portrayed to us just by the way he looks. So, character design, yeah, it's important, but it's not like the shape principle is just in this movie, or just in animation. It's everywhere, but Promare takes this a step further. This design philosophy can be seen in the environments and objects that the character's user interact with. Fire normally has some kind of round aspects to it. When it moves, it's kind of similar to a cloth flapping in the wind. It kind of has these curves to it. It's fluid. But the fire in this movie is a bunch of triangles. It's sharp. It's wild. It's dangerous. Smoke is also normally very round, but this movie has its smoke made up of different flat planes. Even the lens flares are changed. Lens flares are normally pretty round, but in Promare, they're a bunch of squares. It's little details like this that allow the movie to keep its energy and adrenaline, even in its more quiet points. FPS is also very important with keeping up the energy of this movie. FPS, or frames per second, is how many different pictures a movie displays in a single second, because now I'm about to blow your mind. But movies don't actually move. When we watch a movie, we see something move, but it's obviously not actually moving, because instead it's a bunch of pictures put together really fast to create the illusion of movement. Now this is where animation stuff comes in again. Most movies run at 24 frames per second. It's kind of like the baseline number for really making it look like something is moving, but animation is a little different. Most TV anime is actually only animated on about 8 to 12 frames per second. but we still get that sense of movement because of the greater inherent suspension of disbelief. We're more okay with seeing an animation run at 8 frames rather than a live action movie. But anyway, I'm bringing this up because I'm pretty sure this movie runs at about 12 frames per second. How can I tell? Well, when you play a lot of games or do a lot of animation, you'll eventually get a sense for this type of stuff. But for those who don't, the movie uses a lot of smear frames, basically where parts of a character are smeared across a frame or image to help sell motion at a lower frame rate. But why do they do this? Are they lazy? What's with that? No, idiot. Listen, let me explain, okay? It makes the animation look snappier. It makes the movie look faster. When a character moves, it makes them appear more quickly or with a lot more energy. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the principles of animation introduced by Disney animators Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas. I'm not going to go too in depth on this, but one of the principles is squash and stretch. Basically, an object will be squashed or stretched to help sell movement, kind of like a smear frame. When something is stretched out during a motion, it makes it look like the object is moving faster than if it wasn't stretched at all. And the energy of the animations are supported by the amount of held frames or poses. This is another principle, anticipation. It gives the viewer an idea of what the next action is going to be, makes something appear more realistic, but also helps increase the payoff of an action. It's kind of like edging, but visually. Camera shots and framing also give a lot of energy to this film. Yes, energy. A lot of the style has to do with how energetic the movie is, if you haven't noticed already. Now, there's a few ways they do this, the first one being their dynamic camera. A lot of other animations are shot pretty straight on, without a lot of movement of the camera outside of a few pans and tilts. This is because backgrounds are pretty annoying. This is pretty easy to deal with in 3D animated stuff because everything is modeled and you could kind of mess around with the camera as much as you like, but in 2D animation, any shifts in the camera means you gotta redraw the background, and if the camera moves a lot, you have to redraw the background a lot. Now this is where I mentioned that this movie uses quite a bit of CGI. It's just implemented into the 2D animation super well. It's how they got these longest shots where the camera's kind of spinning around these characters. The scene is just so badass. It's not just used in action scenes, it's in some other parts too. Like when Vulcan and Gala are talking to each other. The camera circles from underneath them. The shot is far more interesting than if it were to just be a normal back and forth close-up shot over the shoulder, whatever. You know, a lot more visually appealing. And this shot uses some foreshortening. What is that? Well, it's when you mess around with the proportions of an object or character, depending on where something is on the frame to push perspective. Again, it makes it look a lot more dynamic. This could really be seen in Dragon Ball FighterZ Supers. Like, look at this stuff. Like, this video uses a fixed camera to display the models so you can see what they look like when the camera starts spinning around them. Like, look at the size of Gohan's hand. This makes the foreground and the background of a shot, like, more separated. You can see things really close and far away in the same image, which is, you know, something energetic. I feel like a broken record at this point. Talking about camera angles, the angles are not like straight on eye level. They're from below, from above, they're tilted, and it makes, you know, your movie look more dynamic. You have all these diagonal lines and your shot is no longer stiff and still. Your picture is instead moving, even when there isn't a lot of motion going on. Another thing that has to do more with framing in particular that I absolutely adore is the little title cards for character introductions and super move names. You got these cool dynamic poses with all these diagonal lines, the bright orange, the solid black text, so much style, it really just all pops. And the text is incorporated into the actual scene. When the Leo de Gallo flings the text away, or when the actual genocide beam text stays into the background. They don't have to do this, but it just adds so much charm to the movie. And the last nice thing about the camera that I want to talk about are the transitions. You never really have any downtime. The last shot slides smoothly into the next. Now this is something like how the next shot may bleed into the current one, or the staging of the next frame. There's always something to lead your eye to the next point of focus, which is pretty impressive considering how much stuff is actually going on the screen at a given time. So many shapes, so many colors. What am I supposed to look at? Well, the movie's like, here, you know, don't worry buddy, I got you, look at this. I think it's absolutely great. Now this is the part where I kind of talk about stuff that I either don't have a full grasp on or don't truly know how to say what I want to say, so some stuff from here on out probably won't sound as like good. I'm gonna talk a little bit about music is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't really know a lot about it, so I'm gonna keep this brief to not make a fool of myself. But the music here is very much designed to get you hyped, to raise the adrenaline with all the loud horns and strong percussion. It kind of gives it an epic, powerful feel, maybe. I don't really know how to describe it, but I know it makes you feel really good. Something I do kind of understand is that the movie knows when to be silent. It's not always super loud. In the calmer bits of the story, the movie quiets down to not invade over the actions of what's happening on screen. That's all I'm gonna say, because I think that's all I'm capable of saying. Now let's talk about something I do kind of understand, maybe. Let's talk about color and lighting. Okay, and the movie is very saturated for most of the runtime. There's a lot of bright, pretty colors, and they contrast together well. Think about color theory stuff. Complementary colors, or colors on opposite sides of the color wheel. Blue and orange are complementary colors because there's no blue needed to mix orange, and orange doesn't mix blue because blue is a primary color. You don't mix that. Being next to each other just sparks a lot of contrast, and a lot of colors in this movie do the same. The burnished mech things in the beginning of the film are largely black, but have these bright shades of blue and red, and the contrast of the colors make it look like blue and reds are kind of glowing. The burnished flames are like this purple, pink, and green combination, which just makes each color pop out of the frame more than if they were like just purple and red. A lot of the lights are also solid colors, like the lights on the fire truck thing. I don't really know what it is. And it also helps create more contrast within the frame and draw our eye to something. And this also harkens back to framing, but when something is largely dark, if there is something bright, we tend to look over to the bright thing and vice versa. So like in the shot in the lab underneath the lake where the characters are being told about the fire aliens from the AI scientists, characters' faces, the important bits, are framed in these circles while everything else is black, drawing our eye to the characters. Promare is stylish as hell and is like a purely visual trip. The story's pretty dumb, and again, that's all fine, but if you're gonna skip over this movie because of it, I think you're really missing out on something special. There's a lot to really sink your teeth into here, even if it's not like philosophical stuff. The movie is beautiful, and it's not just my personal opinion, that is a fact. It's mind-numbingly gorgeous with its pretty colors and high energy, and I think that's what the filmmakers really wanted you to take away here. Promare isn't style over substance. Promare is style as substance. Thanks for watching.